Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. I hope you've had a beautiful week. We had Venus enter Taurus on Friday. And I don't know about you, but I could feel the shift immediately, even though, Venus is getting ready to square Pluto this week. She had a few days of just being sort of free to be in that present Venusian expression. I've been traveling so much this year. If you're new to this podcast, I live in Topanga, California, and we began 2025 with wildfires on January 6th. So we have been on the move since the beginning of this year. We were evacuated for 2.5 weeks, and then our senior dog passed, and then my partner's mom passed, and we were in the Midwest where we're both from. So it has been a time of movement, and I could feel this desire to be home, to be rooted, to be grounded, especially through June. And Venus in Taurus is so focused on home and what home means, and the belonging and the presence and the holding and the containment, the beauty. And I just kept telling Matt, I was like, I just want to use my own cups. I want to feel all the things that I intentionally placed within our home to feel and be present with. And so Venus in Taurus has been working through me. And honestly, out of all of the placements in astrology, I think I'm most envious of Venus and Taurus placements. My 7th house is Taurus. So I think that there's just this sort of longing and desire to be in that energy of Taurus embodied in Venus. I also have a natal Venus in Virgo. So even though it's super helpful for certain things, it can be really heady and kind of pull me out of the presence, that Venusian presence of sinking in and being in pleasure and experience. So I hope that you are getting to enjoy and embrace this Venus in Taurus expression. And I talked about in the last episode that June is one of the most abundant, orienting, and supportive months of 2025. It's a month where we get to embrace the essence of Venus and Taurus, where we get to sink in, to integrate all of the crazy change that has unfolded over the course of 2025 so far. And like I just said with my own experience, we get to land in June. And this is further emphasized by Jupiter's shift from Gemini into Cancer on June 9th. And what a beautiful homecoming. Both Cancer and Taurus represent home, but in different ways. Taurus is embodiment, while Cancer is belonging. So this week is probably one of the more activating weeks of June. As we get into the 3rd week of June, so next week, it's more easeful. There's a lot more abundance. There's a lot more expansion. This week is a little bit more pressurized. We start the week off with Mercury entering Cancer. I talked about this in the last episode, but on June 8th, we have a Mercury-Jupiter conjunction. And this is incredibly expansive. They meet together in the sign of Gemini just before they both cross into Cancer. Mercury is closer, so it moves faster, which means it enters Cancer first, and then it's followed by Jupiter on June 9th. This is grounding. Mercury entering Cancer, a water sign. It's connecting us with our intuition, with our emotions, with our internal landscape. It immediately, on June 9th, begins to square Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And as we know, both Saturn and Neptune are just sitting at that threshold of Aries. So anything that enters Aries, anything that enters fire or a cardinal sign is going to be activated and met and confronted by Saturn and Neptune together. And then right away on the 9th is actually a big day. We have, like I said, Mercury in Cancer squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. We have Venus in Taurus squaring Pluto in Aquarius, which brings relational themes to the forefront. It can bring up tension patterns. It can bring up areas where we feel stuck, stagnant, blocked in our relationships. And with Mercury in Cancer squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries, it's going to be focused around communication, clarity, freedom, ideas, belief systems. Then later on June 9th, Jupiter enters Cancer. And I'll talk a lot about that in this episode because it is a significant transit. It's one of the most significant of 2025. It's going to shade and color and tone the rest of the year for 12 months until it moves into Leo in June of 2026. And then on June 10th, we have Mars in Leo, trine Chiron in Aries. Both of these placements are at the late degrees of fire, so it's going to bring up passion, frustration, anger. Once again, where we feel stuck, where we feel confined, where we're not expressing, moving, initiating, or creating in ways we'd like to. And then on June 11th, we have a full moon in Sagittarius. And I'll talk a lot about this full moon in this episode as well. And then on the 13th, to round out this week, we have the sun in Gemini squaring the lunar nodes before it shifts into Cancer next week. So what's interesting about this time is that all of the planets are direct, besides Pluto. And we have a lot of cardinal energy. I mentioned so much cardinal energy just now. Cancer and Aries. And cardinal energy is about initiation. It's about change. It's about action. It's about leadership. So what's interesting about this week is we have this softening into water, but cardinal water. So it's this energy of protection, boundaries, emotional maturity. We have been in the mutable waters so much this year. And I feel like this summer we start to initiate. We start to see things take shape and form. We're in the cardinal energy. We're in the beginning, the forefront, the front lines of what's new. This is the week of Jupiter. We have Jupiter shifting into Cancer, where it's exalted, where it's happy, where it's expanded in beautiful, harmonious ways, related to relationships, related to belonging, safety, connection, emotional attunement, emotional intelligence. And Jupiter, like I said, is exalted in Cancer, so it returns home. But it immediately starts this squaring to Saturn. And the square isn't exact until June 15th, where they square off at 1 degree Cancer and 1 degree Aries. So this is flavoring this Jupiter in Cancer transit right off the bat. It's telling this transit that it needs to move through this sign embodied, with presence, with attunement, with awareness, with maturation. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, positivity, growth. And Saturn is about responsibility and discipline. It rules time and patience. So when we think about these two squaring off, it's immediately bringing us into a level of sobering responsibility. Jupiter and Saturn have been squaring off since August of 2024. So think back to that time. If you have Sagittarian placements, if you have a significant Jupiter in your chart, you've probably felt a little bit almost restricted or limited over the last 10 months. You might have had opportunities reveal themselves to break free, to move out of your limits and into greater expansion. And this transit in particular could reveal maybe where we are clinging to safety, clinging to the familiar. Topics around home, belonging, emotional attunement, intuition, courage, emotional boundaries. The last 2 squares were when Jupiter was in Gemini and Saturn was in Pisces. So there was a lot around information, beliefs. This transit is different because both planets have shifted into new signs. So there's a fresh energy to it, but it's bringing up issues that we will navigate and have to look at throughout Jupiter's journey through Cancer over the next year. And it's a gift in some ways because Jupiter expands, so it can continue to grow and expand without limits. Saturn likes limits. It likes to delineate where its boundaries are, where it is in space and time. It rules the material realm. So actual structure, physicality. Jupiter would just continue to grow and expand without having a structure or a boundary. And so those squares were somewhat helpful while Jupiter was in Gemini because it delineated. It created structures and boundaries and walls. It helped us understand where we have been. And Jupiter in Gemini was no joke. That was an intense transit. You might have felt overwhelmed, scattered with all of the amount of information coming in. Wherever this landed in your chart, you might have gone through a journey of maturation, up-leveling, having to look at and confront the ways in which you might be reckless or where you need better boundaries, where you need to hold yourself accountable even, where there is a sobering that needs to happen. So overall, generally, this transit of Jupiter entering Cancer is incredibly supportive and lovely. But I do have to start off with the reality that it is going to be squaring Saturn right off the bat. So you might feel challenged by this transit initially. So wherever you have Cancer in your chart, you might get a little bit of a reality check, or you might feel a little limited or confronted or challenged to look at something, to look at perhaps even the ways that you're limiting yourself. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So it operates with grace and power and nourishment here. Jupiter in Gemini was risky. It was bold. It was perhaps even reckless at times. It was in its fall, so it might have felt overwhelming, overstimulating, and scattered. Jupiter gets a little grounded in Cancer. This is about rooted expansion, especially with the squaring with Saturn happening right off the bat. It says, yes, let's grow, but let's make sure we have roots. Let's make sure that we're tending to what we need to internally, that we have a place of belonging. This is a year of growing from the inside out, of softening into your emotional landscape, into intuition, and really leading with emotional intelligence, with the heart, rather than the mind. This Jupiter in Cancer transit is going to crack us open. It's going to reveal where are you holding heart walls? Where are you afraid to soften, to receive? Cancer rules the 4th house of home, of family, of roots. It tells us where we come from, where we belong. Cancer is also the sign of the womb, the home, the mother, the protector, the shell that holds what's sacred. Cancer holds these karmic imprints of how we've learned to protect ourselves emotionally, where we've had to create these heart walls rather than boundaries to protect ourselves. And I've talked a lot about heart walls in other episodes. You can even go back to episodes 96, 77, and 54, and I talk about heart walls in all of those episodes and really do a deep dive. But essentially, heart walls are protective mechanisms built into the area surrounding our heart. And they become built because there's something that we needed to protect ourselves from before we had the tools, the resources, the support, the capacity to be with the emotional experience. They typically come from an experience early on, or even inherited or past life experiences where we were disappointed, where we didn't receive what we needed to, where we experienced grief so immense that we couldn't hold it all. Heart walls are formed when we experience trauma related to love, related to attunement. And so this transit of Jupiter through Cancer is going to reveal where we hold these walls, where we're afraid to open, where we're afraid to receive, where we are afraid to be seen by love, where we're operating from the ego rather than the heart. If we think about the crab, the archetype of Cancer, in its shadow, it can shell up and stay closed off and walled. It can find solace in its shell, but it can also fall into the trap of finding more comfort and familiarity in the safety that the shell creates. And ideally, we create healthy boundaries, healthy relationships built on supportive boundaries, an infrastructure rooted in love, so that we don't have to shell up, so that we don't have to hide behind these heart walls. And Saturn might reveal that. Where are we operating from the ego? Where are we afraid to open? Cancer is the sign of remothering, which is so much of the work that I do with clients. My Chiron is in Cancer in the 9th house, so this work is so near and dear to my heart. And a lot of what I think I'm here to do as a practitioner and space holder and podcaster and all the different hats I wear, but also just as a human in my own work, in my own life. So with Jupiter in Cancer, we're going to see how these old protective mechanisms are no longer serving, where we are limiting our growth, our expansion, our ability to feel and experience love in its fullest expression by remaining walled off to it. So often when I'm working with clients who are seeking love and connection, who are continuing to call in emotional unavailable partners, or who are seeking deeper connection and love from their partners, there's almost always a protective mechanism built into their system that prevents them from feeling it, from receiving it, which means they will continue to call in relationships that aren't able to meet them at that deep layer of love beyond the heart wall. And Jupiter expands what it touches. So wherever we feel a lack of safety, nourishment, tenderness, those areas might come into focus, come to light. This will also be a time to expand our capacity for our emotional experiences. This transit will support a deeper capacity to hold emotion without collapsing or shutting down or running away. This is about expanding containment, expanding your shell, expanding our capacity to give and receive love freely, so you can hold more of yourself, more of others, more of life. This is a return to the sacred within. This transit asks us to grow, not by efforting more or doing more or taking in more information, but by feeling more and nurturing and tending to our own inner belonging, our own sense of safety within, so that we can hold more and create more space to feel more. This isn't going to be the fast, quick expansion that we had with Jupiter in more mobile signs. This happens through slowness, softness, emotional attunement, safety and security, and themes around home, belonging, safety, security, mothering are going to be highlighted over the next year. Family, nurturing. This transit will ask for us to connect with our mother line, our feminine line. What patterns have we inherited through that feminine line? Which is work that I find we do in every single mentorship container. It's work that I'm so passionate about, tending to, nourishing, nurturing, and healing the feminine line. This is about building a nest. We have so much cardinal energy that's wanting to clear and detach and disconnect from patterns. This is about nurturing what's here, what we have available to us, the wisdom, the love, the medicine. We talk so often about what we inherit from our ancestry, but so often it's the negatives, the pain, the suffering, the scarcity. But what about the medicine that we inherit from our ancestry? What about the beauty, the wisdom, the resilience? Can we let that be the foundational layer of this nest? Can we let our inner safety begin to weave this beautiful fabric? And can we soften more into what we have rather than what we don't have? So this transit is going to expand your awareness around and your capacity for nourishment, the spaces that feel safe to soften in, the relationships, the foods, the thoughts that feed you and nourish you rather than deplete, highlighting where we hold fear around intimacy, nourishment, nurturing, emotional attunement, where we hold trauma around not feeling like we belong or that we're not at home in our lives, in our bodies. It will reveal what it feels like to experience true safety in the body, what belonging feels like in the body. Tending to the nervous system as we grow. This is embodied expansion, fertility, remothering, the development of our intuition and our ability to really trust it, to let it guide us towards expansion rather than trying to figure out how we expand or strategize how we can expand, but listening, receiving. And we know that Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. And Jupiter, moving into Cancer for its 12-year journey, really colors and themes this full moon in Sagittarius. So we have a full moon in Sagittarius at 20 degrees at 12:43 a.m. Pacific. This full moon is squaring the lunar nodes, and it's trine Mars in Leo and Chiron in Aries. This moon will affect those of you who have late degree mutable placements. So Sagittarius, Gemini, Pisces, and Virgo. It will also affect those of you who have Cancer placements because Jupiter is the ruler of this full moon and Jupiter just entered Cancer. It will also affect Aries and Leo placements because this is a fire moon. And Sagittarius is expansion, possibility, growth. It's mutable fire. It's always wanting change. It can be restless, looking for growth, looking for expansion, looking for change, looking for adventure. Sagittarius represents the higher mind. It's about conscious evolution. Its opposite, Gemini, collects information. Sagittarius synthesizes the information. This is about embodied wisdom, not regurgitating information or spreading it, but actually distilling it down, So this moon is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter in Cancer is helping us reorient to the heart, learning how to find safety and belonging internally so that we can trust the heart to lead. When we have a full moon, it means that the sun and the moon are opposites, and the work is to find the balance between two energies. The sun in Gemini is fully illuminating the subconscious internal landscape in Sagittarius, where we hold shadow in the area of Sagittarius in our charts. Our internal relationship with freedom, expansion, growth, knowledge, wisdom, learning, teaching. In Sagittarius, the moon is on a quest. It's on a journey for more truth, knowledge, wisdom, enlightenment. Sagittarius wants freedom. It wants truth. It wants meaning. But with the North and South node involved, and especially with the South node in Virgo, the moon is asking us where we are trying to control. Are we clinging to certainty to avoid surrender? Are you over-explaining or over-analyzing to avoid letting go? This brings some karmic tension because this moon is squaring the lunar nodes. So it's going to bring up the past. It's going to surface where we feel stuck, where we're perhaps gripping to a belief, to an outcome, to an idea or ideology. The axis of Gemini and Sagittarius is about certainty and curiosity, intuition and intellect. Gemini is curious. It's like the butterfly. Sagittarius wants certainty. It wants truth. It wants to distill and synthesize the information that it gathers to create something it can understand. It can teach. It can share. This moon is going to invite us to surrender what we think we know, to let go, to release control, to surrender certainty, to allow the heart to lead rather than the mind, to release overthinking, overanalyzing, to observe whether you've outgrown a truth, whether you've outgrown your shell, to be okay with the unknown, to observe our relationship with freedom. Do you feel stuck? Do you feel stagnant? Do you feel like you're not able to take the action that you desire to take? Or are you stuck without knowing it in a belief system, in an idea or an ideology? This full moon occurs at the axis of knowledge and truth. It's bringing up everything around what we believe, what we know, what we're ready to expand into. Mars is also adding fuel to the fire, this desire to act, to change. There's pressure to move, to create, to explore, to expand. And Saturn in Aries and then Jupiter just entering Cancer. It's just asking for us to maybe slow down a little bit, to pay attention to our biases, where we hold rooted, fixed beliefs. Are we acting or responding from a wound or from the heart? This is embodied expansion. That is the work of June 2025. So you might feel some inner conflict this week. You might notice tension patterns, wanting to move, wanting to expand, wanting to grow, wanting to break free, but feeling a little limited or maybe a little blocked, or that you can't quite take the action that you desire in this moment. This is an invitation to soften, to let go, to surrender, to trust more, to observe your relationship with God, with Source, with the co-creator. This is a time to pause, to soften, to pay attention to the body, to pay attention to what we're consuming, to lean into that Venus and Taurus. We have this beautiful support, leaning in. And because Saturn is involved, it's going to teach us about patience. Like I said, this is embodied expansion. We are learning how to expand and grow through deep, strong roots, through discipline, through practicality, while still holding the vision for your greatest and highest timeline. Saturn is lead. It grounds us, it anchors us, it's really sobering. So it forces us to tend to what we need in order to build foundations that are strong and stable, dependable, so that our expansion can last. And I think in so many ways, Jupiter in Gemini has been a bit unhinged, a little overstimulating, a little too fast. It's growth without stability. And so we might have been wanting to grow really quickly, to expand really quickly. But with this Saturn in Cancer transit, and especially the Sagittarian moon, with the influence of Saturn and Neptune together, it's showing us the value of steady, slow growth, embodied growth, growth that can be incredibly expansive, but also sustainable, growth we can count on. This is a lucky, abundant time. It's a time of blessings. So how can we root deeper to grow wider branches? With all of these transits, especially over the next year, we are being initiated into heart-centered leadership, service, conscious warriors, learning how to temper our drive, our fire for good, so we can channel it through the heart and create from a space of integrity, a space of balance, a space of emotional intelligence and attunement. What this means for us personally is that you might feel a little tender. There might be these revelations that come through around where you feel a little blocked from receiving, blocked from love, where you hold patterns of pushing away or avoiding what you truly desire in relationship, where you feel potentially stuck or stagnant, impatient, and where there are beliefs that need to be revisited. This is going to be an incredibly expansive week. It's giving us an opportunity to peek into the next timeline, and also showing where our work lies in fully stepping into it. I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you for showing up each and every week and listening and downloading. As always, take what resonates, release what does not. I do have a few spaces opening for mentorship this summer. This is my absolute favorite way to work with clients. This is a very, very intimate, deep container where we work one-on-one together over the course of 3 months. This is blending all of the modalities that I'm trained in, all of the modalities that are imprinted within my system: evolutionary, astrology, quantum and intuitive healing, somatic healing, attachment work, inner child work. This container is tailored for you. So I have sort of a framework that I work with, but each and every person that comes into this container has different pieces and parts that we're focusing on. If you are a practitioner who is in an up-leveling process and getting ready to either begin your business, or if you're moving through a transition, this is for you. If you're someone who's navigating a big life change or a shift, if you feel that you've been in the liminal space, sort of floating between where you were before and where you're headed, not quite sure what exactly you need to be focusing on, what parts want to be integrated and seen and witnessed, this is for you. If you're feeling a bit lost in the liminal space, or if you're feeling like you know change needs to happen, but you're unsure of how to take the next step, or if you're just feeling that upgrade coming and you just know it's here. These are all pieces and parts that I work on with my clients. And what I love most is that your soul knows exactly when it's time to begin together. I have people who have been interacting with my work for years and land within this space. And they're just like, I just knew it was time. I was ready for it. And your soul's really guiding the container. So it takes us exactly where we need to go, into the layers, the direction, the path, the pieces and parts, the patterns that want to be integrated. If you're aware of patterns that you've been working through and you're just not able to break through them and create new pathways, this container really provides a space to land, to orient. There's a lot of somatic healing that's integrated. So we're working with your nervous system. And a lot of what we described in this episode, this Jupiter and Cancer energy of embodied expansion. How do we bring your body along in this expansion process? That is real, sustainable, lasting change, the cellular level change and transformation. So if you're interested, you can book a clarity call. I have the link for that in my show notes. If you can't find a spot, feel free to email me and I can squeeze you in on a Monday or Friday. My schedule is booked out 6 weeks right now for sessions, but clarity calls get some extra space. So the card that I pulled today was a card I haven't pulled before from the Untamed Elemental deck. And I keep thinking, I'm like, maybe maybe we're going to be switching decks soon, but I'm always called back to this one. And it's been fun to just journey through this podcast journey with this deck. So I pulled the Owl card and it's the messenger. Owl is solitary, nocturnal, upright, and sharp. He is eccentric. Of his 4 toes, 3 point forward to where he's going, and 1 points back to where he's been. He sees through darkness. His head also offers a wide range of mobility, so we can see his full environment with ease. The low frequency of his vocalizations cuts through the velvet of night, and he swoops on soft wings, stealthy and cryptic, a symbol of paranormal wisdom. Owl offers messages for you to dissect and interpret on a subconscious level so they can serve your conscious choices. Owl is a messenger with his penchant for prophecy. He announces change and is a strong spirit guide when you need help understanding the obscure elements in your life. He helps you ease the tangible and move into the imaginative. What truth are you avoiding? What clarity has been muddled by wishful thinking? What words have you been unable to say for fear of alienation from all that is structured and known? What lives in the darkness that you pretended doesn't exist? Call upon Owl's medicine to cut through the night. Trust his message. It will lead you toward the light. When it's balanced, you have clear knowing. When it's imbalanced, there's confusion. To bring into balance, seek out solitude and go within to hear the inner calling through meditative introspection. I love this card so much. Owl visits me when a big change is coming and when there's this deepened faith that's needed, when there's this ability to see through the darkness, to sense what's beneath the surface. It's an incredible messenger and guide. And a lot of people who work in the subconscious, who work in the underworld, a lot of people who do very deep shamanic journeying, quantum healing, have Owl as a spirit guide because it is able to navigate many different dimensions at one time. It's a messenger from spirit. So, thank you for being here. As always, I'm so grateful. I hope this episode was helpful. This is a big week. I'm excited. It's definitely a major shift in energy. So if you've been feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the change, if transitions are challenging for you or if change is hard for you, that it is for me oftentimes, I love it and I welcome it, but I also have some discomfort around it as well. Just know that this is a time to land and orient. Give yourself permission this week to simply observe, to not act or respond, but notice what's surfacing for you. Thank you, as always, for sharing on Instagram, for sharing with friends and family. It means the world to me. I'm so grateful, so happy you're here. I'm so happy we're on this journey together. Have a beautiful week.